New information turns the Jackie Walorski story upside down. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Dr. Terry A. Hurlbut. Yes, new information came out yesterday afternoon in the highway death of Representative Jackie Walorski, the Republican from the 2nd District of Indiana, and 2 of her staff. Simply put, the Elkhart County Sheriff's Office got it wrong and had to issue a correction. It was Walorski's car that veered across the line. We're going to talk about what that means and the host of other questions this raises about that crash. Before I get into any more detail, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I have chosen for today's message. It reads, "I need new conspiracies, as all the old ones came true." We might not have proof of any bad acts here or bad actors, but the possibility is always worth investigating, especially when a politician from either side dies during his or her term of office from sudden violence or casualty. The latest reportage comes from The Hill and the New York Post. I've kept a link in the description to the report that I put out yesterday. This much information from that report still goes. The crash happened at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on State Road 19 near a roundabout intersection with State Road 119. Representative Walorski, Communications Director Emma Thompson, and St. Joseph County Republican Chairman Zachary Potts, that's spelled with an E, not an A, all died of their injuries. Edith Schmucker, age 56, the driver and sole occupant of the other car, also died. First responders pronounced her dead at the scene. But shortly after 4 p.m. yesterday, the Elkhart County Sheriff's Office released a statement with this additional information. The Walorski car was traveling northbound and the Shoemaker car southbound. This reverses the directions from the Wednesday press release, but it also happens to agree with the report from radio station WMNC-FM from Mishawaka. Now, Zachary Potts was driving the Walorski car. Quote, "For reasons that are unknown," unquote, it was Potts who strayed over the line, not Schmucker. Now, this also explains why a local television station reported Wednesday night that the sheriff's office had retracted their earlier statement. The South Bend Tribune couldn't confirm the retraction. Perhaps the sheriff's office didn't want to say anything then. Well, on Thursday afternoon they did. So, what does all this mean? Well, for one thing, it means that Edith Schmucker was totally innocent of any wrongdoing or inattentiveness. True enough, part of defensive driving is watching carefully any oncoming car on a 2-lane road in case it veers. But this kind of accident can happen too fast for anyone to notice until it's too late. For another, this puts the onus squarely on Mr. Potts. The simplest thing to assume is that something distracted him. Was it his cell phone? Had he forgotten to connect it electronically to his car's radio so that he could answer hands-free? Or did one of his 2 passengers say something that distracted him? Maybe some people shouldn't talk while driving, either on the phone or to a passenger. But I repeat some of my earlier suggestions for investigation. What were the conditions of the 2 cars? Did anyone tamper with Walorski's car? What was Mr. Potts' medical condition at the time? The driver of any car is part of a system, and any part of that system can fail and cause a crash. That is an elementary principle anyone learns in driving school. So it's worth examining Mr. Potts' medical record and performing a complete autopsy on Mr. Potts at least. Now that includes toxicology tests to examine for alcohol or drugs. Yes, I know, fancy Greek word alert. Toxi what? Toxicology literally means the word on poisons. And when I say poison here, I don't mean something that will always kill you outright, which is how we commonly use the term here in the USA. I mean anything that will make you function at less than your best. The French understand this, by the way. Their word for a drug addict translates literally as toxicomaniac. Well, so in medical speak, toxicology means looking for alcohol or any sort of drug in anyone's system. Now, before I get into the territory of possible motives for murder or other bad acts, I want to shout out to another sponsor, BitNext. This is your replacement for Zoom, Slack, the Google G Suite, Microsoft Office 365, Dropbox, WeTransfer, and Chili Piper, among others. Unlike any of them, BitNext protects your content and conversations so well that even the administrators can't see it. So this is your channel for secure comms, conferencing, cloud storage, and file sharing. Best of all, everything is back-end, so you don't even need client software. If you have a browser, you can use BitNext. Follow the link and give them a try. 28 days free of charge. Now, you can't beat that with a stick. Now then, do I think anybody had a motive to kill Congresswoman Walorski? Well, hey, people have killed for more stupid reasons than political passion. Here is what we know along that line. At 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time yesterday, WorldNet Daily published a critique of the obituary that appeared in the Washington Post. Now, I've left a link to that critique in the description. Now, Washington Post likes to put all their articles behind a paywall. But other social commentators notice how the Washington Post ended their obit, and they quoted him. Walorski voted against certifying President Biden's victories in both Arizona and Pennsylvania after the January 6th attacks on the U.S. Capitol that left more than 100 law enforcement officers injured. Unquote, the Washington Post. Twitter user Ellen Carmichael quoted that paragraph and then pointedly criticized the Post for lack of respect for the dead. I have links in the description to two outraged tweets that she left, one giving the quote and the other her critique. Now, here's my critique. Lay aside for the moment the statistics from the January 6th event and whether they are even accurate. Look at what the Post has against Congresswoman Walorski. Voting against certifying the election results in Arizona and Pennsylvania after Congress hastily reconvened that day, and later voting against the second impeachment of the then president. We have seen American political discourse deteriorate to the point that wishing a political enemy dead is now acceptable behavior, at least from the left it is. Now, suppose someone were to take such sentiments seriously. Walorski and her staff were returning from a ribbon-cutting ceremony in Claypool, Indiana. Now, to get from Claypool to the accident scene, you have to drive west, then north on State Route 19. Sun glare is not going to be an issue at 12:30 p.m., especially if you're headed north. Suppose then someone slip pots a Mickey. That's why I want to see some toxicology tests. I wouldn't expect them to find alcohol, not at that hour, but maybe they'll find something else. And you don't find it unless you look for it. Now, as I said yesterday, the sheriff's and coroner's offices are still investigating. Thus far, the chances overwhelmingly favor an accident due to driver distraction. But we investigate accidents to make sure they really are accidents and learn how to avoid them in future. That includes ruling out bad acts and bad actors. Congresswoman Walorski understood that, which is why she voted as she did and the Washington Post got mad about it. Had she survived the incident, she would have demanded an investigation, and she deserves no less. Link in the description of the article, to yesterday's article by me, to Ellen Carmichael's 2 tweets, and to Conservative News and Views. I have another link to the awesome online store and to BitNext, as I also mentioned. And if you like what you've heard, you can like this video. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link and also a link to my video from yesterday. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.